Good morning. Oh, it's a foggy autumn morning. Atmospheric river above us. We no rain right now, but boy, the rivers are flooded. But that's not what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about the season of understanding, of forgiving, of loving. You know, there used to be, what was it, the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer was all about fitting in, if you didn't know. Land of Misfit Toys and stuff like that. You know, which had its religious symbolism as well because of Jesus. You know, we, for whatever reasons, we get in these cliques, and that's the best way I've ever understood it, is like a clique crowd or whatever, you know. And that ideology extends out so many different ways. Whether it's within your small circles, whether it's within it could be within your family. It's definitely in politics. You know, and everyone, it isn't that everyone fits into certain little areas. It's everybody wants to be in certain groups. And they'll bite and claw their way to get in those groups at times. You know? And I don't know if it goes back to way back when we were trying to get into clans or what the hell it is. But it's always kind of what revolved socially. And it's been forever, you know. But it also has been the downfall of so many, because either they weren't going to fit in, or the group morphed and changed, and suddenly they didn't fit in, or the group morphed and changed and they were not allowed to be in anymore. You know, and it still comes down to the clique crowd. Okay? Which is all, if you really look at it, it's all based, your clique crowds, as well intended as they may want to be. They want to be all grouped together and involved in the same ideology, the same thought process, the same whatever. They all like this, they all like that. But you know what? As that group changes, and not even changes, that could be right from the start, it automatically tries to alienate themselves and other people. The bias, the prejudice. And I just look and go, I've stood back for many years now, and there's times it bugged me, there's times I didn't understand, and I just shook my head, because while I get it, okay, if you all want to be part of the Eagles Club or the Lions Club or the Masons or whatever, I get that. That's a group thing. and you feel like you are part of. You feel like you feel. Okay? I struggled kind of to do that, and then realized that it was wrong from the beginning, from the very concept. And I couldn't grasp why I was feeling that way, outside of that this is the way that we've been taught. You know, my dad was military, and we kind of ran in its own big circles, and he had, you know, it was in our family too, and you know, and it came down on political sides, came down on religious sides. But when it really comes down to it, my mind just didn't. I found out that was where the toxicity began. Okay? Safety in numbers. Your peer group. Well, we're all smoking. Why don't you smoke too? You know? And you're not cool if you're not in this. That is the essence. It doesn't matter what side of the fence you're on, as far as if you're going to discriminate or not, or how well intended the group is. But it just is. It came down to, with me, that I was going, we're all human. Yeah. Welcome to the blue group. We all like the color blue. If you're more prone to green, you're in the wrong group. You know, I didn't suddenly anything. I realized I didn't fit in any of them. And I don't like being hemmed in, boxed in that way either. I really don't. In as much as I may respect the group that I am talking about, or that I am a part of, and everything, I do not like getting in that position. I read years and years ago, I don't know, it was Hypocrisy Unmasked by Edward Winslow, who is one of the pilgrims. And he brought up the fact of, and I've said this before, Calvinists, Brownists, Lutherans, they all were there in their numbers way back when. And because the Pilgrims didn't really fit in that, they were accused as being heretics. They laid down their lives in prayer alone, to get away from that hypocrisy, only to be accused of being so different. Okay? When in reality, they were following what they felt, interpretation again, there you go, the spirit of prayer and God and the Bible was leading them. Okay? They weren't hurting anybody. They weren't affecting anybody. They were their own group. They weren't amassing arms. They weren't going out and doing anything anybody else was doing. They were just going, something was wrong about this whole situation. And so, but they got picked on and singled out because they were that way. Yes, this is going to be a long one. But it's in that context that I started looking and going, I'm not off my mark. You know, I've been in groups personally, and I'm animated. And there's people that will look at me like I've got a quirk, and I know when I'm tolerated. Okay? I know when people are having to tolerate me. And I've tried to tone it down. It's not that I'm autistic. It's not that I may be a little eccentric, but it's not like I'm, you know. But they kind of look at me like I don't fit in with them. And I learned that a long time ago. And I always thought that kind of to be sad, because the fact is that I never thought that once of them. So the prejudice, the discrimination began with them. Okay? Once again, like what I said, sad. Truly sad. And so I bring this out because this is the time of year when people feel most vulnerable, when people are feeling that alienation for whatever reason, because they're away from family, they're grieving, they're whatever it is. And so I bring that out because this is the time of year when we're supposed to be most receptive towards everyone. And anybody that is different, or anybody that is by themselves, lonely, you know, hurting. This is that time of year. Okay? This is the reason why our season of giving, forgiving, of loving was created. Because it's centered around Christ, who supposedly felt all of that. Okay? And I say supposedly just for people to understand. You know, there was a time when you yourself have felt that way. There was a time when we all have felt that way. And the last thing we need is to have somebody turn around and say you don't fit in. It's a crock of shit. You know? Especially during this time of the year. Merry Christmas. I wish you nothing but love. I got nothing but love for you. And have a great day.